Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. It is Wednesday. Welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. John Schmeelk, Paul Dottino, coming to you from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Paul, 15 days. Actually, technically, it's 14 if you don't count today.
Right.
Until the start of the NFL draft. So we're getting there.
We are inching ever so close, although the weather would not indicate that, John. We got another cold spot going here.
See, now, you usually have signals of the change of seasons. Groundhog's Day, perhaps. The first bloom in the springtime. The flowers start popping up in the garden. I think all mine probably died last night when it was 27 degrees. But the way you know you're really getting close to the draft, you get an email on a weekday morning, and the beast is out.
Indeed it is.
Dane, when he was doing this independently on his own, joined us on this very show, probably for the first time 13, 14 years ago. He's been joining us a long time.
Yes, he has.
He has gone on to bigger and better things. Now he's with The Athletic, deservingly so.
But he sticks with us anyway.
Well, I mean, we are the New York Football Giants now. And Dane will be joining me next week on the Giants Huddle to talk about the Beast. That'll be coming up next Thursday or Friday. We already have that booked. He's a good friend. I text back and forth with him all the time because we've been doing this a long time together. The Beast is out. If you're a subscriber to The Athletic, go find it on The Athletic website. And it's 600 pages of draft prospect glory. We will talk about that in detail next week. But at the back of the book, he have Dane's top 100 prospects. So we're going to run through some of these and what's interesting to us. And then we'll get to your calls very quickly at 201-939-4513. The last 15 minutes or so of the show is going to be our interview that we pre-taped with a Tennessee reporter talking about volunteer prospects. So Chris Brazel, Josh Josephs, Jermon McCoy, Colton Hood, all those guys will be in there for that interview. Stay tuned for that. So, Paul, want to go 10 guys at a time and just roll through it a little bit? So let's go the top 10 here. All right, you got Orville Reese, Jeremiah Love, Mendoza, Sonny Styles, Caleb Downs, Mansour Delane, David Bailey, Spencer Fano, ahead of Francis Mauigoa.
Yes,
Ruben Bain at 9, Carnell Tate at 10. So, Paul, no surprises here at all to me, except for maybe that Fano, who is for me as well, ahead of Mauigoa. Though, as I said, if I'm making a board for the Giants, I like Fano better as a player. I think Mauigoa is actually a better fit here.
Yes.
Based on what the Giants would need. But that's the top 10. And to me, nothing really sticks out. The fact that Reese, Love, Styles, and Downs are all in his top 5 kind of is what we've been talking about, right? Those, to me, are the top 4 players in the class.
Well, I'll be honest with you, John. The only thing that kind of is a little bit off center for me is that he's got Orville Reese as number 1.
Okay.
That's a little bit off for me. I think for quite a long time, until very, very recently, a lot of folks thought that Bailey would be the number 2 guy to go in this draft to the Jets because of his pure edge rushing ability. His pure pass rush stuff, you could make a case that he might be the best pure edge guy.
Today? Yes.
Now,
I think the reason Reese is 1 because you think in 2 years that might not be the case anymore.
And I think that's where he's going a little heavier projection.
Well, Dane's always says this. He's a traits first guy.
Now, so for that reason, I'm a bit surprised that he's got Reese at number 1 instead of maybe down a couple of slots. And I'm a little surprised that Bailey is down at 7, which, again, I know in recent weeks it seems as though he has dropped down a bit.
I don't know.
But 7 is not exactly far.
Right. So, and just talking about guys in the division now, I would like to keep Bailey, Downs, Styles, and Love and Reese away from the Commanders at 7 if I can.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It might be tough to not have one of those guys get there, but that would be my hope. And in the same way, I would like to keep Downs and Bain and Delane away from the Cowboys at 12. Those are the guys I want to keep away from Dallas at 12. So let's jump into the next 10.
Okay.
Francis Mauigoa at 11. Vega Iwane at 12, Mekhi Lemon 13, Jermod McCoy 14, Keldrick Falk 15, Kenyon Sadiq 16, Monroe Freeling 17, Dylan Thieneman 18, Kaden Proctor 19. And I'll give you Jordan Tyson at 20 as well. So, again, no surprises there for me, Paul. Keldrick Falk, I understand the appreciation for his traits. he would just scare me with the lack of sack production and explosion on tape. Monroe Freeling, I think, is a little bit of a projection, though he played better at the end of the year. No one else in this group really surprises me one bit.
I would have put Proctor ahead of Freeling myself. But then again, I'm more of a Mauler guy.
Do you see Proctor as a guard or a tackle?
I think he's got the ability to probably play both.
I'd be more comfortable with him at guard myself.
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
And I'm going to finish offensive line this week. That's still my last position, but I see him as more of a guard.
And I understand that, but I think he can be functional at the NFL level at either spot.
Tyson, it's just a matter of health. If Tyson had the injury issues, I might have him as my number one wide receiver, to be honest with you.
You said that to me before.
I think his tape's really good. He's over 6 foot. He's over 200 pounds. He's really good after the catch. He can play inside. He can play outside. Maybe he doesn't have that, ridiculous 40 speed that you want in terms of going deep. But if I'm looking for a guy that can challenge all 3 levels of the field to run after the catch, I could see, if you're starting from scratch, I could see him being your number one wide receiver. I do think Tate actually complements Neighbors better than Tyson does.
There's no doubt.
So again, while I might like Tyson better, I think for the Giants, Tate actually makes more sense, to be honest with you. Same thing with Lemon. I think Lemon as a slot actually kind of makes sense for the Giants too. But that's just kind of how I think about those guys.
My gut key words when I watched the Tyson cut-ups, I was a little bit disappointed in his blocking and his physicality. Those are the 2 things that I wrote down that made me a little bit of a warning sign for him. And I think Tate's better at that.
All right, let's go 21-32. Thena minute 18, you're okay with that?
Yes, I don't have a problem.
I have a problem with that either. I'm with you. All right, 21-32. Casey Concepcion is wide receiver 4. Omar Cooper, wide receiver 5. So he is Tyson, Concepcion, Cooper in a little pod there, back to back to back.
Yeah.
I think you would like if one of those guys could get to the Giants at 37.
No, not
quite sure that's going to happen.
Not happening.
Emmanuel McNeil-Warren at 23. Chris Johnson, he likes him more than I do. At 24, Caleb Lomu at 25, offensive tackle 5 there. Denzel Boston, wide receiver 6 at pick 26. Another guy you might hope could get there to the Giants at 37. Avian Terrell, these are all guys, by the way, that we're going to talk about as potential players for the Giants at 37. Avian Terrell at 27, Akeem Mesidor at 28, Blake Miller at 29, Colton Hood at 30, TJ Parker, and I'll stop at 30, and I'll go 10 at a time. So that's your next group here, Paul. And this is where I think the draft gets interesting, where some of these guys that are 24 and 25 and 27 could be 40, 41, or 42 for a lot of teams.
That's the first thing I was just going to say to you, John. We could actually swipe out a chunk of these guys and move them down because they're going to be relatively the same. This is where that flavors thing comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. No question. All right, so let's go 31-40 here, Paul. TJ Parker, who I have rated higher, Kaden McDonald, Max Ionachor, Chase Besantes, Peter Woods all the way down at 35. 36, Malachi Lawrence. That's a little high for me. 37, Zion Young. D'Angelo Pons, 38. Cassius Howell, 39. So you got 3 edges in a 4-player pod right there. And then Jacob Rodriguez at pick 40.
Now, you're going to get to the other guy I'm going to mention here. Many people think C.J. Allen should be ahead of Rodriguez. He's got Rodriguez a good, 8 spots, 6 spots ahead.
Wow, he does. You're right.
He does. And so that one surprises me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. That one, I was like, I'm scratching my head a little bit.
I actually like Rodriguez better than Allen, too.
You do?
I'm surprised he has him there. But yeah, I don't see enough plays from Allen on tape. But Allen's going to be in the next group here. So why don't we do the next one here?
It's not far away.
Yes. Anyone else? Malachi Lawrence may be a little bit high for me. But again, unfortunately the Giants don't need it. But Dame between 28 and 44 on his board has 6 edge players.
I know. Oh, my goodness.
The Giants don't need one, so I don't think they're going to go there in this spot. But this would be a really good place if you need an edge to score an edge.
You know, it's funny. I believe...
and D'Angelo Pons, by the way, at 38 at only like 5'9". That's also very high for him.
Interestingly enough, I believe, was it last week when Dane did his mock? Did you see that one last week?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay. He had one up last week, and he had Jeremy Bernard, the wide receiver from Alabama, going to the Giants at 37.
Well, here we go. Jeremy Bernard at 41. Ty Simpson at 42. Kristen Miller, who I like a lot, at 43. R. Mason Thomas, an edge at 44. Brandon Cisse at corner at 45. Again, these are all going to be names we're going to be talking about the Giants at 37 now.
I'm sure.
These are all going to be in the mix. C.J. Allen, linebacker, 46. Chris Bell, the wide receiver with a torn ACL at 47. Jake Golday, linebacker of Cincinnati, 48. Gabe Akis, the defensive end out of Illinois at pick 49, who I really like as a player, by the way. I think he's going to be a good pro. And then Anthony Hill Jr., the linebacker out of Texas at pick 50. So you have linebackers 2 through 5, all between picks 40 and 50 here, Paul. You got a few corners in this pod. Your thoughts?
Well, the linebackers are interesting to me. He's a lot higher on between Rodriguez, Allen, Galde, and Hill.
Oh, I'm sorry, 4 linebackers. My bad.
Yeah,
4 linebackers in this pod. You're right.
Okay. He's really kind of shoving them. He's looking at a run there. Well, he's not. This is not a mock, so let me take that back. It's not a mock draft. This is his rankings. That's a little different than being a mock. But he is shoving a bunch of linebackers into this cluster here, and I'm not so sure that's okay with me, to be honest with you, because, for example. All right, let me give you a couple of names that
Golday's a little high for me.
I absolutely agree.
The other 3 I'm okay with.
Okay. Lee Hunter, Banks. I know Banks' foot thing is a problem, but he's got him a lot lower.
Not a lot lower.
Oh,
They're coming up next. They're coming up next.
In the next cluster. Well, again, this goes back to what we said before about the clusters, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Between picks 20 and 50,
yeah,
just put them in one of those big bingo things that you spin around and they pick the numbers out.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing here.
I wondered a little bit where he was going to put Price. I was really curious.
Okay, well, let me do the next cluster. You keep bringing up guys in the next cluster.
Well, because I kind of think I might have switched a few of those guys.
I got you.
And that's my point.
All right. 51, Jadarian Price. 52, Caleb Banks. 53, Keontae Scott. 54, Kieron Crawford. That's a little high for him. Lee Hunter, 55. Traden Stukes, 56. This is you're kind of getting like the slot cluster here. Emmanuel Pregnon, 57. Malachi Fields, 58 as wide receiver 9. Antonio Williams, wide receiver 10 at 59. And then Danny Dennis Sutton at pick number 60. So again, edges, wide receivers, corners is going to be the thick part of this class here in round 2.
One guy stuck out in this group for me big time, Pregnon. I like him higher, significantly higher. I think he is one of those pit bulls with power, strength, ferocity. I think someone's going to be very happy if they get him at this point, which would equate to low second round.
Yeah,
I think they'll be very happy.
Well, would you be happy at 37?
I wouldn't poo-poo it.
No poo-poo. Okay.
No poo-poo.
No poo-poo. All right. Pick players 61 to 70. We'll start going through these. I think we've actually gone through these pretty fast. 61, Keith Abney, a corner of Arizona State, who I like a lot. Keelan Rutledge, your guard out of Georgia Tech.
I like him.
And by the way, you saw Peter Schrager had him going 31 in his mock draft.
I was drop dead shocked when I heard that.
Eli Stowers, tight end Vanderbilt, to 63. The Big Citrus, Dom Arns at 64. That is a great nickname, by the way. It's fantastic. 65, Caleb Tiernan out of Northwestern. 65, Max Clare at 66. Deshaun Stribling, the wide receiver out of Ole Miss at 67. I thought I got to watch him. I haven't watched him yet. Davison A. Bignosin, who I happen to like despite the penalties, at 68.
Yeah.
Elijah Surratt at 69. And then A.J. Halsey, a safety I'm a big fan of, out of LSU at pick number 70.
Rutledge is the one guy that stuck out for me, as you said, as you started going through the list. I'm a big Rutledge fan, and a lot of people I thought earlier in the draft process had him lower. It seems as though he has risen a lot. You suggested to me he would, and he has. And the more you see him, the more you like him. 71, Jennings Dunker. 72, Ted Hurst. He is Ted Hurst as wide receiver 13. I have him a lot higher than that. I think his size and athleticism, I know he's raw, but man, he is a exciting player. Josiah Trotter, 73, the linebacker. Tyler Onyedem, the 3-technique defensive tackle at 74. Kyle Lewis, the really small linebacker at 75. Wide receiver Zachariah Branch, 76. Derek Moore out of Michigan, 77. Zakee Wheatley, 78, the safety out of Penn State. Travis Burke, the offensive tackle out of Memphis at 79, one of David Deal's guys. And then Romello Height at number 80 out of Texas Tech. How about moving up Dunker and Onyedem?
I want to move up Romello Height. I think he's really good.
He had him at what number?
80. I have a second round grade on him. I know he's an older prospect and he transferred a bunch. I don't care. He's really fun.
Yeah, because you have to consider that what is the upside, or has he maxed out?
I understand. And that same conversation for Messidor, who I know you probably really like as a player. He's a Paul Dottino type of player.
Yes.
Messidor.
He is definitely my type of player.
Kyle Lewis, I think, is going to be interesting. Where does he get picked, and how does the team use him as a 220-pound linebacker? But, man, his tape is excellent. It's really good. But he's just tiny.
John, that's one of those guys who I really believe he could wind up being a boom or bust.
Do you know who he reminds me of? He actually just had to retire because of the neck injury. Who is the small linebacker that went to the Browns out of Notre Dame?
Jock?
Yes. J-O-K. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. He reminds me of him.
And that's fair.
What he reminds me of.
That's fair. And if you remember, when Jock came into the league right away, he did not make an immediate impact. They had to figure out how to make sure they could scheme him around.
And they did.
Because there was too much traffic originally.
And that's what you're going to have to do for Kyle Lewis.
And once they got him to be in a free spot where he could run and chase, now he was a better player.
All right, Garrett Nussmeier checks in at 81. Brennan Thompson, the speedster out of Mississippi State. Wide receiver 15, by the way, at pick 82.
Think about that for a second.
That's why you could probably wait to the top around 4 for the wide receiver.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
wait.
Remember, Jeremiah said he had 19, right, in the first 3 rounds.
We'll see how many we have when we get to the bottom here. Kayshawn Elliott out of Arizona State, 83. Bud Clark, 84. Mike Washington, 85, the running back. Oscar Delp, the tight end, 86. Malik Muhammad, the cornerback, at 87. Jalen Kilgore, the safety corner slot combo at 88. Jake Slaughter, the first true center, at 89, ahead of Logan Jones, which is surprising. And then Bryce Lance, wide receiver number 16 at pick number 90.
I mentioned this to you the other day. Were you on with me with the LSU guy?
Yes.
Okay. Nussmeier, for me, is the sleeper quarterback in the draft.
I agree with you. I actually think Nussmeier is closer to Ty Simpson than people would like to think.
I absolutely believe
I'll be honest, I was watching Joshua Cuevas yesterday, the tight end.
Yeah.
And do you know how many times I said, wow, that's a nice throw. That was a good throw. That was a nice throw. I said it a bunch. And I have not done a heavy study on the quarterbacks just because it's so time-consuming.
And nor have I.
But there's something to Ty Simpson, too.
I watched more of Nussmeier 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah? He was really good.
Because the Giants were obviously in a different position, right? So now I haven't watched enough of his inconsistencies and his injury issues from this past season. But I remember 2 years ago, and Nussmeier, to me, is my sleeper quarterback.
And again, not a ton of physical tools, but he just knows how to play the game.
Very poised, John.
100% agree. Chandler Rivers, 91 out of Duke. Love him as a slot. Sam Hecht, center out of Kansas State, center 2 at 92. Justin Jolie, tight end, NC State, 93. I think if you're looking for a reliable possession pass catcher receiver, Jolie's excellent.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of Trey McBride a little bit in terms of, not an explosive guy, but a really good kind of reliable possession guy. Jalen Farmer, not to that level, but in that same category. Jalen Farmer, guard out of Kentucky at 94. Logan Jones, center out of Iowa at 95. There's Chris Brazel at 96.
Wow.
Chris Brazel, and we'll talk about him later on the show. Markel Bell at 97. Dalen Everett at 98. Deion Burks, wide receiver 18 at number 99. And then Jayshawn Barham out of Michigan at edge 16. So of the top 100 players, Paul, 34 of them are either edge players or wide receivers.
Man, oh man, oh man.
And if you want to include cornerbacks in that, you're at 47. And you probably get close to 50 if you include some of those safeties as slot corners.
Okay, now.
So you're looking at half the players could be corners, wide receivers, and offensive tackle.
Now, the Captain Obvious statement here.
I'm sorry, corner, wide receiver, and edge players. Pardon me. Yeah. I'm sorry.
The Captain Obvious statement is the Giants don't have a pick from 37 to 105. That is a gigantic Bermuda Triangle where they will be sitting around twiddling their thumbs and trying to figure out how are we going to kind of calm our disgusted stomachs as we watch all these good players go off the board. And then, by the way,
wait overnight until Saturday morning to make the pick.
Yes, it's not going to be fun, which is why I actually favor if you could possibly move down from 37 and try to get something.
I've been saying that all draft process.
I don't want to move down from 5 to do it, but I'll move down from 37 to do it. just to get somebody in that Bermuda Triangle.
And again, between picks 20 to 50, it's kind of a big mess anyway. So what's the difference?
Now, I don't know you're going to get someone to take a deal.
You might not.
I don't think that you will.
I don't think you're going to get a lot of trades.
But I'd like to try.
Yeah, I'd
like to try. Now, about this last cluster, I do have 2 comments.
Yes.
Brazel, look, if he is there at that point, basically they're telling you it's not a far drop to get to the top of the 4th round.
Trade up.
Wow. That would be incredible value. Yeah. He's a really good player, and I don't think he deserves to be down that far. And Dalen Everett is another intriguing one for me.
I have not watched him yet.
Do it.
I need to watch him.
I won't tip you off.
He's on my list.
Watch him. There are things you're going to like about him, and then there's some things you might not be sure about.
Okay.
I'm not going to tip you off on him, but I could see him being higher.
Okay. I buy that.
Anyway.
All right, 201-939-4513. Giants Huddle Podcast, folks. Go check it out. A lot of great interviews coming your way. Matt Miller went up this week. Matt Waldman on the skill position players in the draft went up this week. Last week, we had Nate Tice, who really dove into the trenches. Remember, guys, Nate on offensive line is really, really good because his dad is Mike Tice.
Yes.
Who was a great offensive line coach. So he's done a lot from his dad.
Is he with Yahoo now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hosted the 301 podcast.
Nate does a good job.
He's really, really good.
I agree.
Smart football guy. He was on late last week. We have Field Yates coming down the pike. We have Dane Brugler coming down the pike. Brian Broaddus coming down the pike. A lot of really good interviews coming your way on the Giants Huddle Podcast. So make sure you go and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to the Giants official podcast network feed, or just watch on your Giants YouTube channel or Giants app. All right, let's go to Bob in Southampton. He's up next. Bobby.
Hi, how are you?
What's up?
First look. I want to talk about John. The past 2 or 3 days, you've been killing me.
Sorry?
Your obsession with drafting a right tackle, but playing him at right guard with the 5th overall pick.
Well, but time out. It's not an obsession. That's not even what I would do. I'm just saying, explaining why it would be an option at that particular spot.
Okay, but you've been spending so much oxygen explaining it that it's been, in some ways, delusional.
Bob, calm down, please. Don't call into my show and call me delusional when I do more work on this stuff than anyone, okay?
Well, that's what's driving me a little cuckoo, is because the fact that it's out of character, the way that you've been kind of delving into it, as if, we're going to abandon best player available philosophy and go and reach for someone.
Bob, I do an hour of programming a day, and then I do the Huddle Podcast on top of that. Do you want me to talk about the same 3 players every day ad nauseum, or do you want me to give other options and other possibilities on different days to expand the conversation?
If you could put it in the right context, it's just that you've been harping for 2 or 3 days, and it's been like, wow.
But have I not also said I would be focusing in on Styles and Downs if I was making the pick, and that would be my selection?
For like a 5-second blur where you're spending 10 minutes going over and over how you think
because 2 weeks ago,
serve, an immediate need.
Yes, Bob, because 2 weeks ago I spent 2 whole weeks talking about Styles and Downs.
I know, but then you seem to abandon it recently with the idea that, we can fulfill the right guard need with the 5th pick.
All right. All right. Relax. It's okay.
Go.
Bob, let me say this, okay? We've been discussing this stuff now for a good couple of months, at least, if not more, okay? There are only so many different things you can say about each of these players. And quite frankly, what we've tried to do on this show is to give you all of the different angles that may make some sense, that may have some logic, that may have some rationale as to why the Giants might feel they want to go a particular way. Now, we all may have a favorite way, and that's fine. John may have a favorite way that could be different from mine, could be different from Johnny Mac's, could be different from Pearson's
and
or Lance's or Moose's.
Sytac.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because there's no right or wrong answer here. Because what have we told you probably more than anything else, if you've listened to the program? It's a flavors draft. Okay?
I do listen to it religiously.
All right. So, but that's what we're trying to tell you. It's a flavors draft.
Because, Bob, for example, let me just give you an example. If the Giants, let's say, in 2 weeks, drafted Francis Maui Noah, and I had not spent a couple of shows talking about that possibility,
then we would be negligent.
I'm doing a disservice to the fan base. You know what I mean?
You see, look, if there are, and I think we agree, there are going to be probably 4 or 5 logical selections when the Giants come up at 5 that you could make a case for.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the case for the logical selection.
There you go.
Yes.
And that's really the point of this program. We're trying to bring you as many angles and as many logical not timelines, but connecting the dotted lines as we possibly can, so that you're not shocked, surprised, or stunned if they pick a certain guy. You're not going to be sitting there saying, well, how does that make sense? We're trying to give you in advance the logical line of thought that would allow some of these guys to go in different directions.
Right.
That's all.
And by the way, like just as an example, some people do have Francis Mauigoa as their 5th or 6th player in this draft class. So there are some people that actually do think he's worth that level of pick, even if he might not be that high on my board.
In fact, some people have even suggested he may even go to the Titans or the Cardinals.
Exactly right, and that's exactly why I brought it up. Bob, you just answered your own question.
That's the point.
Yes.
But when you look at the ranking of players, he's not in the top 10. So if they were to do that, they'd be reaching for it.
Okay,
and that's my concern.
But that would be one individual's ranking of players. What if the Giants front office, if their personnel department, honestly, in their heart of hearts, and I talk about this with John all the time, about slam your fist on the table guy, if there's a guy out of the 4 or 5 folks that we think are in the cluster who they want to slam their fist on the table for, and if it's Mauigoa, if it's Fano, you, Johnny, John, me, we may not agree with that. But if they think that's the guy, they have to take him.
And Bob, I do think not everyone has Mauigoa out of their top 10. I don't think that's accurate. There are enough people that have him ranked as like their 6th or 7th player in this draft.
That. We've seen his name high on a number of different projections.
Like, for example, I think most people probably have him ranked, if not at the same level or a little higher than Cardinal Tate, which is a player that we've talked a lot about on the show. So, it's not like I'm sitting here saying go draft. And you've heard me if you listen to the show religiously. People have called up. They're like, oh, let's fill the need. Let's draft Vega Ioane. He's the best guard. Let's just pick him at 5. I have fought back on that like crazy because that, to your point, the value's not there. Yeah. Overdrafting a player just for need.
Well, then you're taking me off the ledge then, because based on the past 2 or 3 days, you had me on the ledge.
Yes, come off the ledge. Come off the ledge.
See,
Bob.
just remember one thing. Fano and Mauigoa, if you believe they've got position flexibility, and they could be awesome for the next 10 years at either guard or tackle, whatever your opinion is, okay, because there's no right or wrong answer today. That's the difference between taking the Penn State guy. He's not a tackle.
Correct. And eventually you can move Mauigoa out there.
Has been like in the mid-teens in terms of evaluation.
Correct. Exactly right.
Where he'd be drafted.
And that's the whole point.
And that's why you can't draft him that high. I have a question for you, Bob. In all seriousness, let's say you draft Mauigoa. Hold on, just real quick. Let's say you draft Mauigoa at 5, okay? And again, I'm not advocating for this. I'm just throwing out the theory.
You're trying to kill me again.
What if, and I asked this question to Malusis yesterday, and I'll ask you this question too, Paul.
Okay.
If you draft Mauigoa at 5, and he has Chris Snead's career, the 31st best player in Giants history, 5 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro, are you happy with that pick?
100% yes.
How about you, Bob?
Not if I'm giving up 7 Pro Bowls or Downs or Styles.
I know, and I think that's a fair answer. But I think that's the type of conversation that we're having when you're thinking about him at number 5.
Right. And the other thing is Harbaugh's been very obsessed over we got to deal with the rush in terms of teams that's been gorging us in terms of rushing yards. How is that pick going to solve that issue?
It doesn't.
At least mitigate it.
No, it doesn't. You can always try to help the offensive line with the first pick, and then you help someone to help with that issue in the second round. But you're right. Look, if I had to guess, and I actually asked Field Yates this, it's going to come up on the John Settle podcast. I said, theoretically, where do you think Harbaugh leans? Trenches on offense, playmaker on offense, or leader on defense? Where do you think he would land in that matrix? Given, let's say, assume all the players are kind of equal. And he says he would lean towards defensive leader in the middle of the defense.
So would I.
I agree.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we're right or wrong.
between Downs and Styles, who would be better in terms of solving the rushing dilemma?
I mean, I think you always lean linebacker over safety if you're looking for someone to help stop the run. You put him next to Tremaine Edmonds. And by the way, Downs is an excellent run defender. He's very great up there, and you'd almost argue he makes more plays behind the line of scrimmage than Styles does. But I think if you're looking for a guy to impact the run game first and foremost, I think you'll lean linebacker.
I'll give you another point, Bob. I'll give you a point.
Yes,
stay on line. I just talked to Justin Tuck yesterday about this, and I said to him, Justin, you're a defensive guy. We know the Giants have always been strong on defense for their championships. And Justin is all about the trenches. He's an old school guy, football 101. You got to build from the trenches. But then he talks about Styles and he talks about Downs and he talks about Reese. Because Reese plays more up on the edge he's more of a front guy. And I said, all right, so Justin, but you're telling me you love Downs and you love Styles. Those two guys in particular are not trenches guys. So how do you feel if the Giants take them at 5? And he came back and said, they're different players. They are so versatile in the amount of ways that you can use them. I don't just consider Styles a middle linebacker. I don't just consider Styles a safety.
Right.
Because there's so much versatility in the skill sets of both players. He said you can use them in so many different ways and give them the responsibilities of at least 3 players on your defense. So I said to him, so the positional value doesn't cause a problem for you, even though we're talking middle linebacker and safety. And he said no, because they are so versatile, they give you 3 times the value of a regular player because they can play so many different responsibilities. And I thought that was a very interesting remark.
To reinforce that point, listening to the DC coordinator yesterday, his big mantra was, I want to be unpredictable.
Yes.
So expecting those guys to just fit in with his scheme.
Exactly. And when I talked to Justin,
I need to move them.
That's exactly.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate the call.
What came to my mind, because Denard Wilson spoke about that yesterday in his media briefing, and when I spoke to Justin last night, that started hitting the bell in my brain. Oh, boy.
Now, he also said, though, he wants to stop the run with 7 guys and play 2 safeties deep and not put an extra guy in the box.
What do you do with that?
He also said that.
I know. So how do you kind of coincide these things?
Look, you're not going to be able to answer every question. Let's go to Mario in Staten Island. He's up next. Mario.
What's up, fellas?
What's up, dude?
Hi.
Talking about Maui Noah, I got a feeling that he ain't passing 6 with Cleveland. Just start off there.
I think there's a good chance. Yeah, I think there's a good.
Where he's going.
I think there's a good chance he might not get past 6 at Cleveland.
They will very seriously look at him.
I think him and Fano are both big time options at 6. I'm with you.
I just got a feeling that they fell in love with him, and they would really love for the Giants not to take him because they want him at 6.
Okay, I tell you what, let's make a phone call, move down a spot, and steal another draft pick out of him.
I would love that. Like, you guys would have a problem if we traded back 2 or 3 spots off of 5?
I wouldn't.
I would prefer not to, but if you're going to tell me that you are convinced that at 6, you know they're going to take Marinoa, then I would consider dealing with them if you really truly believe that's happening.
I feel like it's 7 or 8, Mario. I can still get Caleb down, so I don't have any problem moving down a couple of spots.
Okay.
Well, that's why if you went down a few spots, I think there's still a chance you might even be able to get Styles. If you traded back, let's say, to 9 with Cleveland.
I don't know about Styles. I don't know about Styles.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I could see Styles going to the Titans.
If you went back to 9 and you got Downs and you got an extra 3rd and whatever, you would be disappointed with that?
No, absolutely not. I'd be thrilled with that.
Now, you think Downs is getting to 9?
I won't be sitting there with oxygen on my stomach from 37 to 105.
Well, you're also going to be sweating your you-know-what off, Mario, between picks 5 and 9, hoping that Caleb Downs is still going to be there.
Not really. I mean, I think there's enough players that I would be happy with at 9.
Yeah, I mean, look, in theory,
that would alleviate the agita in my stomach from 37 to 105.
I think that's fair.
Do yourself a favor. Don't eat the night of the first round.
Look, I will say this. No, I think Mario poses a good question.
Okay.
If you go down to 9, is it more or less a guarantee that you're going to get one of Downs, Delane, Maui Noah, or Tate? Or Fano? One of those 5.
Yeah, but see, here's where it gets sticky for me.
You're getting one of them.
But here's where it gets sticky for me. We just said a moment ago, what style or what type of box do you want that number 5 guy to be? And I want the defensive stud, the defensive impact player. So you're going to tell me that
you never
3 of those. Well, you're going to tell me that 3 of those guys are going to be offensive players. That's scaring me.
Really? Why?
Because
I help the quarterback.
I want the defensive stud if I can with that first
You
pick.
always lock in on one thing and you can't get off of it.
Well, you know why? Because we're supposed to be telling people our preferences.
I understand.
I'm not telling you that it's right
Paul,
or wrong.
You know what you're not Paul. You know what P-Dot. You know what you're not put into the equation.
What do you got?
The guy you're getting at 9, additionally with the guy you're getting that we would have never had to pick for.
The point.
I can't dispute
You
that.
understand?
I can't dispute that.
So you combine the 2, and I think it outweighs getting the one guy you want.
I think Mario makes a good point.
And that's very possible. That's why today
You know,
there's
the meat and potatoes in every draft starts at the 3rd round. 3rd, 4th round is where you make your head.
This is why I made the comment several weeks ago that no matter who the Giants pick, there's going to be a segment of the fan base that's going to be very, very angry. Because it's a flavors draft. And no matter what you do, there are going to be people who had their hearts set on either trading down, drafting an offensive player, or drafting a defensive player, and someone's going to be unhappy.
Thank you, Mario.
And no one's going to be right or wrong until we find out 3 or 4 years down the road. Right?
Absolutely. Let's go to Henry in North Carolina. He's up next. Henry, what's going on? We lost Henry? All right, we'll get it back on. Don't worry. Call right back, Henry. We'll get you up as you take some calls here. So that was the question I posed to Moose, that if he ends up being a guard only and has the Chris Snead career, is that a good pick at 5?
Yeah, I absolutely.
You don't have a problem with that?
No, I don't, because remember, my requirements, and maybe yours are different, my requirements at that height, at that level of pick, I need maximum impact for the longest period of time. And if you're telling me he's going to be a 10-year starter and a 5-time Pro Bowl player, that fits both categories for me.
Even if it's just a guard, you're okay with that?
That's okay.
Okay. No, I have no problem with that.
Chris Snead has jewelry. He helped get that jewelry.
No, I know. But he was also a 2nd-round pick.
I understand.
Yes.
But you could just as easily get a bust at that pick, too.
No,
and a guy who doesn't make any awards.
Totally agree.
So that's why sign me up. You're going to tell me right now, I got a guy who's a 5-time Pro Bowler and a 10-year starter. I don't care what position he's playing. I'm taking him.
No,
sign me up.
I think that's fair. All right, let's go to Len in Columbia, Maryland. Len, how are you, buddy?
Hey guys. I put the phone down for a second and then you called my name. Good to talk to you guys. Boy, 2 weeks. We're getting close.
Oh, we're in it.
Way back, maybe mid-February, I gave you my first 4 picks by team. And I had the quarterback going number 1, obviously, to Las Vegas. I had Reese 2 to the Jets. I had Bailey 3 to Arizona, and I had Bain 4 to Tennessee. I'm pretty much close to that now. I'm going quarterback. I'm going Reese to the Jets. I'm going Love to Arizona. I'm going Bain to Tennessee.
All right, you know what I would say, Len?
Bunch of players left.
Len, real quick. I think I would go Mendoza 1, Reese 2, Bailey 3, Styles 4. That's what I think the top 4 is going to look like myself.
The first 3, I would agree with you.
Right.
I don't know about 4 yet.
Okay, yeah, I don't know about 4 either, Paul. But what I'd like you to do, thank you for that, John. I'm not knocking the pick when I go forward here.
Oh, look, and Len, by the way,
here's what I wanted you to do. I'm going to give you 3 names. I can give it to you, in bulk, or we can go one by one. But what I want you guys to do is tell me why that's the right pick for the Giants. I don't want to hear any negatives.
Okay.
I want to hear the positive on the 3 players.
Sure.
Okay. So at 5, we go Styles. Tell me why Styles.
He could do everything. Good coverage linebacker, long, checks every box. Is not really a weakness in the draft profile. He'll go right next to Edmonds when Edmonds is gone in a few years because he's getting older and his contract is up. He can step right in, be a green dot guy. Off the field, he checks every box. Really smart player. Played an NFL-style defense with Matt Patricia in college, and he can be the centerpiece of your defense for 10 years.
And it absolutely does fill part of the needs as well.
Yep.
I mean, let's face it, the front against the run has not been very good.
Yeah, great. See, I'm starting to get excited. I don't want to talk about negatives anymore. I want to know what these guys bring to the Giants. Tate.
Wow. He's a guy you could slide right into Malik Neighbors, is a really steady, sure-handed wide receiver with good body control. He's always been a top complimentary wide receiver. He'll continue to do that across the Malik Neighbors. Even though he didn't time well, he can win over the top with pacing, speed, and body control. And I think he'll be a very reliable number 2 for you for a very long time.
Smart player who will absolutely run good routes for your quarterback. He will make big plays. He will help block for the run on the edge. I mean, what a great character guy. And obviously, the Giants want to make sure that Jackson Dart develops and maxes out his potential. You give him a big, lengthy weapon like this who can make contested catches, that's going to help him.
Baines. No, not Baines. I'm sorry. Downs.
Downs might be the smartest player in this class. Yeah. You watch him, he knows what the offense is going to do before they do it. He can play split safety deep. He can play the slot, though not a lot of man-to-man coverage in the slot, but he can play zone better than anyone. He anticipates. He knows route concepts. He reads quarterbacks. He's a really aggressive tackler at the line of scrimmage. He's a chess piece that you could put anywhere in your defense, and he is a force multiplier. Because of his intelligence and his ability to do everything and be in the right spot, he's going to make the rest of the defense better.
Very, very smart. Checks all the character boxes, the leadership situation. But here's the one thing, and again, I go back to my conversation with Justin Tuck. He is a matchup nightmare. He will keep offensive coordinators and quarterbacks guessing virtually on every play, not knowing what his responsibilities are and what kind of impact he's going to try to make on that particular snap. He will cause mega confusion and uncertainty for the other side of the ball.
Can we pick all 3?
That'd be nice.
Well, they all sound good, but I like that. I'm getting excited. I'm tired of hearing about the negatives. I just want to hear, what do they bring? What do they bring to the table that will help us? And what it sounds like to me is, hey man, put the 3 of them in a hat and pick one.
I go back to my point, Len. I go back to my point that I've made so many times. There are going to be several outstanding players for the Giants to pick at 5, and for every person who loves the guy they pick, there's going to be somebody else who says they picked the wrong guy.
And you can make a similar case, Len, for Maui Noah. You can make a similar case for Dwayne.
You know why that is? It's because we got a lot of needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of needs, so somebody's going to go one need versus the other. But I'm just pleased we're in the position. I'm holding on to the pick. I'm not dealing the pick. I'm not taking any calls on draft day.
Well, you got to take the call.
I just want to go with what's there in front of us, and I think there's going to be a great player there. Yeah, the 3rd round pick. I've thought about. I think it may have been 2 days after we made that trade and drafted Dart last year. I got on the show and I said,
I remember.
We're going to get to 2 days before the draft, 2 weeks before the draft next week, and everybody's going to be, oh my God, we don't have a 3rd round pick.
But it was worth it. It was worth it, Len.
The 3rd round pick was Dart. I mean,
exactly
come on,
right.
That's our 3rd round pick. I'll take that.
All right, Len, we got to run, man.
Yeah, go for it. Thank you.
Appreciate
I like the
call.
approach. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Len actually did that well.
Yeah.
Make the case for all the guys. All right, to close the show, before we get to our guest here talking Tennessee, Pearson had a question for us that he wanted to pose to me and you before we got the calls here. And I don't think it is why the Knicks are going to beat the Celtics in the playoffs. So, Pearson, what is your question? Johnny Mac's going to give it to us. So, Johnny Mac, what is the question?
All right, so the Masters are this week. The question is, you just won the Masters. You get to choose the champion's dinner.
Oh, the menu.
Yes. 2 apps, 3 things on the main plate, and 1 dessert. What are you choosing?
2 apps, 3 things on the main plate and 1 dessert.
Okay.
It's a good question. I feel like this is gonna be easy for you. You're just gonna throw all the food on there.
Yeah, that's easy.
So you go first.
Okay.
I'm gonna think more hard about this.
I'm gonna go potato skins and mozzarella sticks as my apps. Okay. Believe it or not, I'm gonna go for the New York strip.
Over the chicken parm, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In this particular case, I'm gonna go with I'll go with some corn.
Oh, man, we're gonna be similar here
on my plate, and I'm gonna probably go mashed potatoes too. Now, what is the third
dessert?
Thing he wants?
1 dessert.
I'm gonna go for a cup of lemon sherbet.
Ooh, okay. All right. So here are my 2 apps. I love corn fritters. You had a nice corn fritter before? Delicious. You can't go wrong with mozzarella sticks. I mean, if I'm not worried about caloric content and I'm just worrying about food, mozzarella sticks. I would go a nice bone-in ribeye for dinner. A little cowboy, a little tomahawk. We'll go there. Thought about the bone-in prime rib, which is also very good. But I'll go bone-in cowboy ribeye. Sweet corn. Has to be in sweet corn season, though, in like August. When you get the really good sweet corn. You got to go sweet corn. I feel like I need to put a vegetable on the plate now. I would think about doing like a loaded baked potato, but I feel like I'm just getting really starchy at that point. I need to have some kind of vegetable. But
break the rules. Come on.
Fine.
Do what you want.
Give me a nice loaded baked potato. Some bacon and melted cheese. Bacon bits and melted cheese. And a little like the green onions in there too.
Okay.
Dynamite. And then give me a nice old-fashioned crumb apple pie for dessert with ice cream on it. Hot crumb apple pie with a scoop of vanilla ice cream and a little caramel sauce on the top.
Did you purposely put a food question on our plate because we're about to go for lunch?
Well, you know what they have at lunch today?
I have no idea.
It's chicken parm.
Do they really?
Look how excited he is.
Oh, man. I feel like I'm about to make the pick in the first round of the draft.
All right.
Chicken parm, baby.
All right. That's all the time we have live, but stay with us. Coming up to close up the show, we're joined by a guest to talk Tennessee Volunteers draft prospect. We'll see you tomorrow. And now we welcome in from the Sports Animal 99.1 in Knoxville, Tennessee, Jayson Swain, who does a great job covering the Tennessee Volunteers. Jayson, you got John Schmeelk and Paul Dottino up here in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Hope you are well.
What's going on, guys?
Nothing much, man. So let's talk about these Volunteers this year. And look, I understand Giant fans might not want to go back down this path, but I'm excited about the player, and they're getting very upset at me. But I don't care because Chris Brazel is really good. And I think what I want to point out, and I want you to dive into this specifically, even though they're both receivers, he plays a very different position in Tennessee's offense that Jalen Hyatt did. And they used him, I think, a little bit differently as well.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they used him after tweaking the offense, adding more NFL concepts, understanding what they need to improve on as an offense. And, Hyatt was used differently than Brazel. Brazel showed that, he can run NFL routes. He can run the comeback at 16, 18 yards. He can catch high point balls. He can adjust to back shoulder throws, and he can make plays in big-time games. So, yeah, I mean, I know the narrative is still the narrative about Tennessee wide receivers, but I do think that Chris Brazel did a better job of answering some of those questions, and he has a chance to be good at the next level. The question is, where do you get him? How much value does he have? Are you getting him in the second, third round, or are you talking the fourth or fifth round? That's the question, but I do think he's an NFL wide receiver.
Yeah, and I think the thing that jumped out to me, Jayson, is at his height, and you brought this up in your first answer, his ability to break off routes and change direction at 6'4", that's not normal for a guy that plays that long.
No, it's not. I mean, he's athletic for sure. I mean, he's going to catch balls where guys are on him, especially when it's above his eyes. Now, there has been some times when, in traffic, the physical catches across the middle, I thought he could have done a better job. But those balls above his eyes, I mean, my goodness, his game against Georgia, and that's the best of the best we're talking about. I mean, you think about all the corners and safeties that have come out of Georgia the last couple of years, but Chris Brazzell made those guys look like they were non-existent during that game.
Jason, I only get to watch cut-ups of these guys, and you get to watch them play by play throughout the season. So at 6'4" and less than 200 pounds, how much more strength, how much more physicality will he have to show against NFL defensive backs who probably will try to get more physical with him?
Yeah, I mean, I think this last year, and kudos goes to Tennessee's wide receiver coach, Kelsey Pope, because before last year, it was really hard to evaluate the physicality and the toughness of our receivers because they were not really asked to block a lot during the running game. And this year, they did block in the running game. They did show their toughness and physicality. They're willing to get physical. And so I think that is going to be a good sign for Chris Brazzell. But, I mean, like I said, like some of the catches across the middle, the digs, the slants where there's some traffic, there's a little bit of alligator arms, and that's something that he's going to have to get better at. But there's other parts of his game that you just can't teach, and it's the reason why he was able to be as productive as he was in the SEC.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, let's jump over to Jamal McCoy. I think he's very interesting as a player.
Yeah, very interesting.
Because you watch his 2024 tape, and it is phenomenal. You know, you talk to people around the league. I think some teams might have McCoy ranked higher than Mansour Delane just because of his physical skills, and that 2024 tape was so good. Tell the folks, give us a thumbnail on him and how much you think that Pro Day performance assuaded some fears that he's not back physically completely from that ACL.
Yeah, I don't see how you don't have him as the number one corner. I mean, the country. When you look at what he did in this league, his first year coming over from Oregon State, he's still learning. I mean, he played wide receiver in high school, went to Oregon State because there was not a lot of film of him playing DB. He goes there, is recognized as one of the best freshmen in the conference, and then he comes to the SEC, and in year one, he is a big part of why Tennessee's defense was as good as it was in 24. And the only question you had was he fast enough and was he explosive enough? Because you knew he was technically sound. You look at how he played against Alabama and some of the game-changing plays that he made, but then he comes out and shows you the explosion, shows you the speed. I don't see how you don't have him as number one corner in the country. If we're talking about any prospect on Tennessee's roster, he should be the top one because he's just that good. And he's a phenomenal young man, I think, who's continuing to grow. And I think his ceiling is very, very high. He hasn't reached anywhere close to his potential.
You know, with some of these guys who look so good, Jason, sometimes I try to nitpick and see if I can find a way to ding them. The only ding I can find on McCoy is that not a great wrapper-upper when it comes to tackling in run support particularly. And I think that Colton Hood has some of that same dent on his fender as well. Clearly doesn't have the upside or the pure skill level that McCoy has, but Hood is also another intriguing player to me who I've seen a wide variety of grades on.
Yeah, that's the question. I mean, is Hood too physical? I mean, that was the question I had coming out this season because, you know, the NFL rules are tailored towards receivers that you can't touch them beyond 5 yards. And you know, Colton was very physical down the field, had some questionable PI calls, some that went his way, some that didn't, and he's going to have to adjust that, in that part of his game. But he's going to because he just has that mentality. Here's someone that was told that he wouldn't have a spot at Colorado. And this young man guarded Travis Hunter during his time there in Colorado. We saw what he did his Heisman Trophy year and what he did in his rookie season before he got hurt. So Colton Hood plays with a chip on his shoulder, and he delivers. My question was, hey, how fast is he? Well, he answered my question there too. So he's another good one. I think his mentality and how he plays, I think, aligns with New Yorkers and New York Giants because there's some players, some guys, that their personality, it just doesn't match New York. Colton Hood's personality matches New York to a T.
My follow-up on Hood, I think he was a really good press man corner when you asked him to do that. I think he was able to really mirror well. I did wonder sometimes, Jason, when he was playing off a little bit and had to kind of change direction in space a bit, I thought maybe he struggled with that just a bit. He is a little bit of a bigger corner, so maybe that explains some of it. I thought the Senior Bowl, I saw some of that stuff show up as well. What do you think about just in terms of his side-to-side quickness, in terms of dealing with some of that change of direction stuff that some of these shiftier wide receivers might have when he's not in press?
Well, when you have guys who are that physical and like put their hands on you first, then you wonder, all right, is it because they don't trust their feet enough? And so that's the question that he's going to have to ask. But I look at him like I looked at Alontae Taylor coming out of Tennessee. Alontae played corner, for us here, and had his good moments, but then also had his moments where you wondered if he could hold up on the island in the NFL. Well, he goes to the Saints, and he plays safety, plays well enough to put himself in a position to get a second contract now with the Tennessee Titans.
A big one, too.
Is a guy who I think is versatile, that if it doesn't work out at corner playing off, you can put him in safety, you can put him in nickel. I think he'll be okay because of how physical he is.
How much more is there to Jalen McMurray with a slot corner? I was not particularly high on him, and I think he may be a day 3 guy. But is there a lot more untapped potential and talent there than maybe what we've seen so far?
Honestly, I'm not really sure about Jalen McMurray. There were times when you're like, oh, okay, he could be a big time player for you here at the SEC level. Then there was other times you're like, well, I understand, he's a guy that came from Temple, and there's a reason why he came from Temple. And so he has an opportunity just because of the competition he played in the SEC week in and week out to take that experience and go compete for an opportunity with the Giants. He's a little bit of a question mark to me. There were some times when I felt like he belonged at this level. There's some times when I question if he did.
The last guy I want to hit on here is Joshua Josephs, the edge rusher / defensive end. His production, I feel like people just haven't talked about him a ton. But then you look at his production like, wow, this guy was a really productive player for a very long time. For Tennessee, very consistent. 6'3", 240, 34-inch arms, 10-inch hands. And he just finds a way to win. What do you think about Joseph, and how would you kind of categorize him as an edge rusher in terms of how he wins and gets to the quarterback?
Big fan of Joseph just because he has taken to the coaching of arguably the best defensive line coach in the nation over the last 20, 25 years, and that's Rodney Garner. He coaches them hard. He's honest with them. He pulls out the best of them. From them, and he prepares them for the next level, how to work each and every day, how to be a student of the game, how to be serious about your craft each and every day. So he was productive in this league, played as a true freshman, made some plays when Tennessee, at 22, when Tennessee was ranked number 1 in the first release of the college football playoff. He was a contributor for sure. I like his game a lot. He physically, I think, can come in and be ready to go day one. He's great with the media. He's gonna say what he feels. That may be a good thing. That may be a bad thing. But I think in today's age of sports, you can appreciate a guy who is honest. That's him.
How would you utilize him when he gets up here to the NFL? Because I liked his length. I thought he was good with his get-off and the snap, and he's got a hot motor. He obviously is a very high-effort player.
Well, I mean, I would put him in a position to be successful. I mean, I don't know if he's a guy that's going to be beating double teams or anything like that. He did benefit from being on the opposite side of James Pierce a little bit during his time here. He understood that, I want to say it was his junior season, that he could have been better. And he's mature in that respect, where he's not going to believe the hype just because it's in his favor. He can handle the truth. He can handle hard coaching. But to put him in a position to be successful, you got to have someone that's coaching him that he respects. I think it'll just be fine.
All right, that's all I got.
Jayson, good stuff, my friend. Tell the folks where they can find all your great coverage of the Volunteers.
Well, you can follow me on Twitter, X. I still call it Twitter, at Swain Event. We are live, 99.1 The Sports Animal from quarter 3, Jayson Swain.
Jayson, good stuff, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your offseason, spring football, all that good stuff. We'll talk to you next season.
Thanks, Jayson. Be well.
Hey, thank y'all. Anytime.
That's Jayson Swain. Does a great job covering the Volunteers, and that's all the time we have for Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com and the Giants app. For Paul Dottino, I am John Schmeelk. It's all brought to you by Cadillac, the official vehicle of the Giants. We say farewell from the Hackensack Marina Hill Podcast Studio. Keep getting better.